have had some unusual experiences in my work, and being on reality TV was definitely up there. It taught me a lot about intuition, my abilities, pressure, visibility, and particularly what happens when your abilities, your skills, your gifts are placed under a very bright and slightly unforgiving spotlight, let's be honest about it. So let's talk about when I was on a reality TV show. It was called The One, Search for Australia's Most Gifted Psychic. So this included, and not including the auditioning process and what we had to go through to actually get on the show, but they chose 10 of us from, I believe, thousands of applications. And once we were actually on the show, what that included was 8 weeks of tasks or challenges. So they had two judges. One was a skeptic and one was a practicing witch. And then they had us do 2 challenges per week. One was in studio and one was out in the wild. And that included some pretty crazy scenarios, such as trying to find a diamond thief on a moving public train, flying around in helicopters, trying to find people that had supposedly been kidnapped and stuffed in the boot of a car or the trunk of a car in a crowded car park, finding how someone was murdered in their apartment. You know, the list goes on and on and on. Also, the in-studio challenges were obviously very confronting. When you're in a studio being put under immense pressure to perform and entertain and amaze people, it brings through a whole added level of difficulty. You know, the off-site challenges, they were certainly difficult, but there wasn't like a whole audience watching you perform in that moment. So it was just kind of like the crew and not even the other contestants, because we were often separated from each other when we were undergoing the different challenges, because every week you were also scored, or the judges voted on whether you got some information correct. And so that's how they scored you throughout the process. And then at the end of every episode, somebody was, I guess you would say, voted off the island, or like psychic survivor. So if you didn't get something correct, then you left the show. And so I stayed there the whole 8 weeks of challenges. And I ended up being in the top 3, and certainly that was a very interesting experience in and of itself. But what I want to talk to you about is the pressure of being intuitive and empathic in a public setting, because obviously it's certainly one thing to work with clients in a private space, in a private grounded space where you can kind of manage the environment, and it's your space. You get to determine the energy that is contained in that space. But it is another thing entirely to have cameras, production crew, energy, expectations, and judgments around you constantly, and literally being judged with everything that you say and everything that you do. I remember actually one moment was probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess off the top of my head, show 7, like weeks, well, maybe week 6 or so. And I remember being in kind of like the airlock between the green room and the studio. So we have a full studio full of people, audience, the judges are there, the hosts are there, all of the executive producers are in their box, watching every move. And I was about to go out and do my challenge. And I remember being in that airlock with one of the producers, and all of a sudden this feeling of absolute terror came over me, and all I wanted to do was get the hell out of there. My entire nervous system was on fire, and it was pinging like left and right. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I was absolutely in survival mode. And I'm thinking, I don't think I can go out there. I don't think I can go out there. And I was saying to the producer, she's like, okay, you got 1 minute, you got 30 seconds. And I'm like, I don't think I can go out there. I'm terrified. I don't think I can go. And it's not like it was my first time. I'd already been doing this, right? For the filming actually took about 4.5 months. So it's not like it was my first rodeo. And I remember her saying to me, well, you don't have to go out there. You can just walk away if you want. And anyone that knows me knows that that's kind of like challenge accepted. So I override my nervous system dysregulation and actually stepped out there, did the challenge. Interesting note here is that actually, whilst I was out there on that stage, somebody psychically attacked me and I ended up vomiting for the next 24 hours. That's another story. But my point being is that my nervous system had already detected that there was incoming. There was like an incoming threat before my brain had even registered the perceived threat. So obviously, being seen can activate all kinds of things. That's an extreme example. I understand that, and not one that everybody is going to experience. But the reason that I share this with you is because actually I don't see that I'm anything special. And what I mean by that is that I truly believe that we all have the ability to develop our born with senses, like our clairsenses, our clairsentience, our clairaudience, our clairvoyance, our claircognizance, and be able to use them in whatever setting we choose. It just so happens that I use that in the setting of a psychic survivor style reality TV show at that point in my life. But, as I was saying, being seen can activate all kinds of things. So self-doubt, performance pressure, obviously fear of being misunderstood, fear of being dismissed, and in that case that I've just explained to you, fear of being annihilated. Like I literally had a fight or flight, like survival response at the deepest level. So obviously intuition, because I'm just going to group all of that clair ability into and use the umbrella term of intuition. It performs best when you're connected to yourself, right? Not when you're trying to prove yourself. Because actually, side note, that challenge that I did in studio was probably the worst outcome I had throughout all of the challenges I did. So why I'm saying that is because my nervous system was so dysregulated at that point that I could not get any clear information through. I was just in like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, just get through this. You're gonna, somebody's gonna try and kill you. I mean, it's not rational, but that's kind of where I was. So the more pressure there is to perform the intuition, the more important your self-regulation becomes. It's not negotiable at all. So what I like to do is use some personal prompts and to use moments such as this to understand, like, what did it actually feel like walking in? When I think about it, and not just necessarily in that one example that I gave you, But what did it feel like walking into that studio? What did it feel like doing all of the promotional work? What did it feel like when I was about to do a challenge? And really connecting into the emotional energy of my body and also the room that I was in. And the most important thing was that I actually had to focus on centering myself, because without that, everything just kind of flew out the window. And what I also learned about myself in this and the public perception was that there's always going to be haters, right? Haters are going to hate, regardless of what you do or how skillful you are or how talented you are or not. People are always going to find something to dislike about you. You could say that's a reflection of what is unowned in themselves. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. But there's always going to be people who are going to be there to pull you down, whether you try to do the best thing that you've ever done in your life or not. So you can actually give them your power, or you can stand in it yourself and take control of yourself and your life and your intuitive skill set. I think I would tell my younger self now not to take it so seriously. And I know that a lot of empaths are really highly calibrated to like what other people think of them and really want to fit in and really feel like their survival on a very basic level is to be able to conform and fit in with the rest of the population. But as I'm a lot older now, I'm here to tell you that that's actually not that important, and that you need to walk your own path and be your own person. So for anyone anyone afraid of being seen, I want you to ask yourself, right? Am I here to prove myself or express something that I know to be true? Ask yourself, can I let myself be visible without handing my worth to the audience? And I'm not talking necessarily about a reality TV show studio audience. I'm talking about the audience in your life. And that can include family and friends as well. And kind of the last question I would invite you to ask yourself is, what does my body need before I step forward? Because that's going to be such an important key. You need to feel safe, grounded, regulated before you can actually step into your true power. Now, I'm not talking about like nerves. I'm not talking about like anticipation, excitement. I think that we have to have those aspects to kind of drive us forward as well. So it's not just always about being like a Zen monk and never feeling anything or never being activated. I think we need that certain level of activation to actually step into our true power. But it's like, does that activation become dysregulation? Or is that activation become an imperative to move yourself forward and to push yourself, I guess, out of your comfort zone? So just before I close up, I guess my closing thoughts would be, being seen does not mean that you're going to be understood by everyone. All right. And that's been one of the most important lessons of my work. Not everybody is going to love you. Not everybody is going to want to work with you. And not everybody is going to be your friend. And you know what? That's okay. They're not supposed to be. All you need to do is be true to yourself, work from the best of intentions. So obviously that means, you're not intentionally harming anyone else. And then whatever anyone else thinks of you actually is none of your business. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.